Picture a bustling retail store in the 90s. You walk in, you're immediately greeted by one or two people, and the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, "Can I help you?" And your reply automatically is, "No, I'm just looking. I'm just looking." And then 2 seconds later, you're looking around going, "Where is that bastard? I need some help." Well, "Can I help you" is an example of being polite and nice to people you don't know that actually puts a wall up between you and that person. Here's another example of that same phrase and why it's such a bad phrase. And then I'll tell you what we're really getting into today. Um, and in the meantime, if you want to come in and join us here, come to joinraylive.com. You can come on and we'll talk about it together. So it's joinraylive.com. I'll just put that little ticker up there so you can come on in if you like. But let's go to a different situation. You don't know me and you come to my house for a party and you're walking around the party and I see you and I said, "Oh, hey, let me have your coat. You can put it over there if you like. The food's in the kitchen, the keg's out back. Make yourself at home." That to a stranger is like, "Whoa, okay, this is a cool place to be." Whole different game if I came up and said, "Can I help you?" It would stop that person dead in their tracks. They would feel uncomfortable. So what we do in business is we keep putting people that we think we're trying to be polite and look up to, we're putting them in this uncomfortable position, which makes it uncomfortable for us. And what we do when that happens is we create this block of politeness, and it's just stopping you from getting where you want to go. I got distracted because there's a very cool person sitting in the green room right now. They're in a hot tub nibbling on a Doveware. We'll bring them up in a second here. But that ability to push people away or bring people in is the biggest difference. What we worry about is, I don't want this person to be bothered. I don't want to get in the way of this person. So I'm just going to be polite and I don't want to talk to him ever again because I don't want to appear to be salesy. And that's what we're talking about today. Getting rid of that nice politeness and doing what your friends would do to you, because it's not the language of friendship that you're using. But speaking of friends, I'm so excited to have a good friend waiting in the green room for me. Please welcome Hall of Fame NSA speaker, Bill Staten.
Hey, Ray.
How are you?
I'm good. So I'm a little late to this. I clicked on one link and it took me to something that ended at 10:43. And then
I changed. I have to, every time I do this, I have to change the link because it's Join Ray Live, but it's through this other thing and off to another thing. So if you go to an old link, then you wind up sitting in the green room with half-eaten strawberries and the melting Dove bars, or they're sitting in the hot tub right there.
Yeah, exactly. They were Cheeto crumbs every place. It's just, it was kind of disgusting, but I got over it.
Yeah, and what a perfect person to talk to. Very innovative. One of the best TED Talks around, TEDx Talk. If you want to go take a look at it,
at least until Jeff Rogers does his.
At least, well, Jeff Rogers, he looked like he was running for president today, didn't he?
He did look very official.
So if you want to come and join us, it's Join Ray Live. We'll talk about creating business for entrepreneurs and what the things that they go through and why it's such a pain in the butt, but it shouldn't be. It should be easy. So what gets in your way, Bill, from going out there and you're busy all the time and you've got great things going on, but the problem is this roller coaster we go into where we work and then we don't work, we work, we don't work, and we get a little bit shy about reaching out to people.
Yeah, and that's the I mean, I'm primarily a keynote speaker and plus a consultant and advisor, but still primarily a keynote speaker. And you're right, that is the roller coaster. It's seasonal. Summer tends to be very light, which is why the National Speakers Association has their annual convention in the summer because nobody's working. That's not true. I mean, there's some work, but then around September and especially October, it picks up a lot. So, September and October, you make all the money in the world, and then you spend it during the summer and you think, I'm never going to work again. it's so strange that way. The feeling that you're basically always looking for the next job. And what I've found is that it takes constant, continuous outreach first and foremost. Like even in May or October when I'm on the road every single week, I've got to keep that outreach going because that's the one thing I can control. I can control the outreach. I can't control if my phone rings. I can't control if people hire me necessarily until I get that conversation with them, and then I've got some control over it. What I can control is my input. I can't control the output, but I can control my input. And as long as I keep doing the outreach, then things kind of magically seem to work out. But here's the other thing I found. I know that you know this too, Ray. Um, Outreach is great. I just talked about emails, LinkedIn, videos, all the tools that we all use for outreach. But that outreach isn't designed to get me the job.
Mhm.
It's not designed to get me the speaking engagement. It's designed to get me the conversation. Actually, what it's designed to do is get them to look at my demo video, and then that's designed to get the conversation. They look at that and go, "Ooh, this guy should be on the short list. Maybe we should have a talk with him." But it all has to happen for the conversation. I'm kind of obsessed with booking conversations. Our mutual friend David Newman always says nothing good happens outside of a conversation. I'm not sure that that's exactly, if you really dissect that, nothing good happens outside of a conversation. I saw a puppy in the yard today. That was good. That wasn't a conversation, but I know what it means. Like as far as business goes, it all happens in the conversation.
Well,
And
and one of the things that I think that statement shows is that is not something that a normal business person says because it's got a point exact to it. What we do when we talk to people is we leave open too many things and we make it too wishy-washy and fluffy, where we don't talk like our friends to our business people. And when David says nothing good happens out of a conversation, you listen to that and go, okay. But if he said, well, most things that are good happen if you have a conversation, it's not as compulsive to follow that.
right,
And when we talk to people, you need to talk to business people as if they are your friend.
yeah,
Because one of my favorite quotes of all time, Jeffrey Gitomer, is that people buy from their friends, and if their friends aren't available, they buy from their friends.
friends. Hmm.
And that is and the thing I was just talking about before you came on. Uh, when you walked into a retail store in the 90s or the O's, I guess you'd call it, everybody jumps and, hey, can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? And the whole, whoa, no, I'm good. I'm just looking.
Right,
You always got, I'm just looking. I'm just looking. I'm
right,
just looking.
right.
2 seconds later, where is that bastard? I got things I got to ask him. And the reason that is that they're asking a question, and friends don't usually do that. So if I came to your house and I walked in and I
That's
said,
never going to happen.
I know. There's the, you said, there's the keg, there's the food. It's like, oh, great. Bill's a great guy. You would have fooled me, right? But
Exactly.
but if you came up and said, can I help you? That's a whole different vibe. And people don't realize there's a lot of little things that we do that make it comfortable to interact with us. There's a lot of other things we
Yeah.
do because we're being polite that are really trying to push people away. Um, Entrepreneurs don't realize that Monday is the day that everybody calls to get appointments. And so they're inundated. I talked to my friend Kate, that's an executive for a power company here in California, and she says, "Oh my God, it's awful on Mondays. I don't know where they come from, but they always are trying to get through." And I've been doing a bunch of research, calling people about different things that are going on because I've
Mhm.
got a program coming up called the Lean In Factor, which is talking about creating comfortable conversations. And
Nice.
it's about getting people to have that feeling of friendship as quickly as possible versus uh, good morning. How are you today, Bill? Thank you so much for having me. it's really an honor to be in front of you, you know?
And I think that's what people who have fear of picking up the phone and calling a prospect, that's what they fear. And I'm generalizing because that's what I fear.
Sure.
The biggest thing is I know I'm in interruption. I don't want them picking up the phone going hello. And as soon as I start talking, they go like, oh, why did I answer the phone? But because it's a sales call. And we all resist being sold to, which is like, can I help you? Can I help you? They're trying to sell to us. We don't resist buying. We like buying things.
Yeah.
Amazon didn't get where it is because people are afraid of buying things. But we don't like being sold to, which is why when I talk to leaders about, and they say, I speak about innovations, it says right there, innovation guy, about innovation. And a lot of times they say, I'm having trouble getting buy-in from, we come up with these innovative ideas. I'm having trouble getting buy-in from my team. Well, let's dissect that word a little. If you're looking for buy-in, the implication is that you're trying to sell something to them. And we all resist being sold to, but instead, and maybe this will loop back to pretty much everything else we're talking about, instead of trying to get buy-in from your team, instead of trying to get buy-in, try giving ownership. So they feel like they're co-creating this with you. Now, they may not be able to co-create on an equal level necessarily, because if you're the boss, but you can say, okay, here's the vision. Here's what I do. How can we best manifest this vision? All of a sudden, they get some ownership. And I think that's kind of goes back to what you're talking about. Instead of approaching a prospect as a salesperson, because then you're trying to get buy-in for your idea, or for like, hire me, please God, hire me. If it's ownership, for example, as a keynote speaker, say, hey, I've got some ideas that might be valuable to you because I've been where you are. Hiring a keynote speaker, putting it, how do you figure out who to put up on the stage? What are you looking for? Here's what I do. Tell me what you're looking for. Let's see if there's a match. If not, maybe I can help you find somebody who is a match.
Well, and what you're talking about here is after spent the last 4 years working with a bunch of entrepreneurs, you're in the rapport phase.
Yeah,
when you're talking like that, and there's a missing link to get to the rapport phase. That is what the lean-in factor is all about.
Right.
And for example, once you get there, and then you can have those conversations. A lot of entrepreneurs are comfortable getting there. It's they fear that initial talk.
Right.
And
like literally, what's the first when they pick up the phone, which by and large 90% of the time they don't. You're leaving a voicemail, but be that as it may, let's assume they do pick up the phone, or even if it's a voicemail. But let's assume they pick up the phone. Yes, once we're a minute into it, we can get to that rapport part you're talking about. But you really nailed it. So I'm curious to hear your answer on this. What is the first thing? Because they don't know who you are. If it's a cold call, or ideally you've done your research, so it's not exactly a cold call. But as far as they're concerned, until you start talking, it's a cold call. They don't know who you
are. And what you have to do, and I love the phrase that I took from a Bruce Lee quote, which I went back and read and looked at it, and it is ridiculously different than how I use it, but it is be like water. And water, we do so much to try and keep water outside of our house, but it gets in.
Right.
And we want it to go in the exact tube that we want it to go in, which is just like someone who is an executive there's a certain way you can contact me. Well, if you try to contact people like that, you never get in. So you have to come up with something interesting. And that's the key, is being interesting and creating that really tell me more. I remember the first time I had a boss that I talked about and said, yeah, if you go in and say, hi, my name is Ray, and I work with the XYZ company, and we are the leading vendor for IT hardware and software in the communications industry. You're like, by the time you get there, they're like, wah, 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 wah,
right, because they've already put this into the receptacle of sales call.
So one of the things that you'll notice when in every conversation, we've had a bunch of conversations, it never starts with a question. I'll say something about your Emmys. I'll say something. I had to mention the Emmys there. I'll say something about the background, whatever's going on, or Bill State. Here we go, Bill Staten, the man, the myth, the innovation guy. Instead of, "Hi, Bill, how are you today?"
Right, right.
So a couple of examples that I've used. I was proving a point to a boss one time because I used to work for a company, and we worked the government contractors and defense contractors, Boeing, all these people, and we had to go contact them on the phone without ever meeting them. Right. And so I challenged it. I said, "Yeah, I can talk to anybody. So let me pick up the phone." And that day we were having a chocolate potluck because we had different things all day. And so when this person picked up the phone, she answered a name in the department she was with. Right. And I said, "Oh my God, we're having a chocolate potluck. It smells like chocolate throughout the room today." And then I shut up, and there was a little bit of silence. And then she said, "Tell me more." And I started explaining all the chocolate dishes we had. And I talked to her for 10 minutes back and forth about chocolate before she said, "By the way, who are you?" But by the time I get to who am I am her friend. I give her a feeling of friendship. If I walk in to you to say, can I ask you a question? And I'm a stranger. Right. Can I ask you a question? Okay. You get this little lean back. Okay.
Yeah.
You drop the chin a little bit, right? Yeah. And but if I said, "I have the craziest question."
Really? Oh, yeah.
So see the difference between a statement and a
right.
question? A statement shows confidence and comfort.
Yeah.
And confidence is the most attractive thing on the planet.
Yeah.
It is something that people lean to. Every person who is charismatic that you've ever seen has confidence. And there's so many different little things. And what people don't realize is it's teachable. Confidence is teachable. Charisma is teachable. And there's different components that you have to have. And one of the things that ties into innovation that also ties into charisma is that people who are innovative and people who are charismatic both share a childlike awe and wonder that they never lose.
Right.
And it's phenomenal. And how do you figure that out? Well,
they're interested in things, interested in how things work, interested in other people.
Yes. One of the other things is that they have genuine concern for others. So if you have childlike awe and wonder, genuine concern for others, there's a good chance that you have a large amount of built-in charisma.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things that I say, and it's what you have to become is unusually acceptable. Acceptably unusual is the phrase. And that is what sets you apart. So, and for some reason I've got some weird internet thing, so I hope I'm going okay with this thing.
Yeah, the audio is fine. The video is glitchy a little bit.
Okay. And what I mean by that is I'm about to say something that you've heard probably 100 times, but I'm going to say it in a way that makes it really tell me more. So every good salesperson should lie to their customers.
Okay.
And then I break down lie into listen with interest and empathy. Right? So when you say it, lie to your customers, like, what?
Right.
What? So that's the thing, is it's a statement. Every person should lie to their customers. A statement with confidence and shows comfort. And they go, what? And you lean in and go, it's listen with interest and empathy.
Yeah.
Oh, and now they've got it, and they're
right.
And those are that's a huge difference between. Well, you have to be empathetic. We have to listen. You have two ears and one mouth. These things that everybody has said.
Platitudes that we've all heard. Yeah.
There's nothing new under the planet. What is new is your spin and your take on how to do those things. And one of the things I've always been able to do is to, well, not always, because I had to learn how to do it. I was so shy when I was a kid. You have to learn to interact with strangers, and statements that allow them to go, that's kind of interesting. So when I approach somebody, what I want them to not do is push me away with, there's like 4 switches. that when a stranger comes up, if you flip one of those switches, you will never ever talk to this person.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? Why are you here? How long are you going to stay? Are you friend or foe? If I don't flip one of those switches, I can stay as long as I'm interesting.
What do you mean by flip? Oh, if
I make you think one of those,
the answer, if none of those 4 questions result in a red flag in their perception, you mean?
Well, no, because they'll all result in a red flag.
Okay,
If I
so
make
tell me
them
more about that then.
first. So, and questions do that. Questions go take you to that red flag. For example, there's a cool little pizza parlor with a little tiny bar in there that's just down the street, and there's like 5 seats. And I've seen people come in and say, "Is this seat taken?" Or "Do you mind if I sit here?" Which is normal,
right?
When people say that, and sometimes no. They look no. No, my friend's sitting here. And then the person doesn't sit there and no friend shows up.
Right. No friend shows up.
But I've also I've done this myself. I've walked up and said, "Thanks for saving a seat for me." They go, "Oh yeah, great. Yeah, come on, take it. It's yours." Because people want people with confidence and comfort in their life.
Yeah.
They'll allow them in because, okay, there's the creep factor is low. So what you're doing is you're keeping the creep factor out.
Creep factor. That's good. Mm-hmm.
And charisma, there's really, I put it, your people skills, and charisma is part of people skills.
Yeah.
I have 4 main components to it. There's confidence, humor, influence, and charisma. And if you have all those 4 things, you can have great people skills.
Which means you're very chic.
Yeah, that's why.
So did it CHIC?
Yeah, I saw you took that before. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, good work there. The thing is with people skills is that you can have great people skills, but if you don't believe in what you do,
yeah,
that's another problem for entrepreneurs. And that was me for the longest time. I just talk. Who would pay for that? I paint pictures inside of people's heads. I make people listen to you. Who would pay for that? It's like,
right. The trying to convince yourself, they say, the first sale is to yourself. That's a platitude, but it's also true that you've got to really believe in your own value.
Yeah.
Which means that if you really do, you're not trying to sell them. You're offering them something of value. And they can either say yes or no. I think maybe you and I have talked about this. People say like, "Oh, I'm terrible at sales." I don't think that's true, because I used to think I'm terrible at sales, and sometimes I still let myself go down that rabbit hole of I'm terrible at sales. And yet, if I watch a new limited series on Netflix that I think is just fantastic, I would have no problem picking up the phone and calling you, saying, "Ray, you've got to watch. You would love this," or recommending a book. I just did it with my sister the other day in Chicago. I just finished a book. I said, "Leslie, my goodness, you've got to read this book." In fact, let's just, and we literally drove to a bookstore within the hour, and I bought a copy for her. So you have to, and she's reading it. Okay, I was selling. That's a sales pitch.
Yes.
But it didn't feel salesy because I fully 100% believed in the value of what I'm talking about to her or to the person I'm talking. So we have no problem selling.
Yeah.
We have a problem selling ourselves. That's because it's not the same. It's not, "Oh my goodness, you will love this book." Okay, that's great, but it sounds weird saying, "Oh my goodness, you would love me as your keynote speaker." They would. But it just feels icky to say that. It feels a little bit like, well, there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness.
So yeah, there's
and then arrogance, if it goes too far.
Yeah, I know that because I've been on Match.com. There's a big difference between confidence. And one of the things about sales, one of the things that I like to speak about with people is that whoever you are, you have 2 job titles. You are a parent, or father, it could be stay-at-home dad, stay-at-home mom, / salesperson. You're Bill State and innovation guy / salesperson.
That's right.
Everybody, everything. If you ever, kids get wanting a cookie, that's sales.
Yeah.
You try to get your spouse to go to a different restaurant than they've ever been to before, that's sales.
Right.
You try to get a kid to clean their room, that's sales. And so what happens is that as a kid, we never take no for an answer. But kids have more will than power, and adults have more power than will. For some reason, it's been knocked out of them. So what we have to do is bring ourselves back to that childlike awe and wonder that's inside of us, and create this connection, because it's easy. It's hard to sell. It's easy to talk to a friend.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did in a seminar the other day, I'm kind of testing out a theory that if you can, which I'm pretty sure is true, if you deliver in your keynote, in your speech, if you deliver the big win right in the beginning, in the first 5 minutes, the aha moment, you've got them for the whole time, whether or not they want to be there. I used to do a lot of things with groups of people that are in a room that didn't want to be there. And I knew that coming in. So you have to provide them with this big win. And the example, I used to do seminars for a seminar company, and they made me go see one of the veterans doing it, who did an Excel class. And I don't really know much about Excel, but I used it. I made charts with it, and it confused me, but I still could use it a little bit.
Yeah.
And in the first 5 minutes, the guy said, I know a lot of you don't know a lot about this, but some of y'all make charts. Who here makes charts? Anybody here? It's a pain. Let me show you this. He goes, F11. He hits F11. Boom. Chart appears on the board. I'm like, as if I saw fire for the first time.
Right. Right.
And what I did to a group of people that they are not professional speakers. They want to be professional speakers. And so they speak well. They have no connections, and they're just starting out.
Right.
And I said, well, here's the first thing you need to do. He goes, who do we call? I said, all right, think about, take 2 minutes and write down 3 people that you've had asked you to speak in the past, and you enjoyed talking to them and you enjoyed working with them. So write down those 3 names. Now get on your computer and type this simple email. Bill, it's been too long. Let's catch up, Ray. And send that out right now. And by doing that, 5 minutes later, somebody says, oh my God, I got to reply to an email. Yeah. And so that was an aha moment to them, that maybe this whole transfer into where I want to go isn't that hard.
Yeah.
It's where we lose people, when people think, how do I do something? Because that's confusing and it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, and this idea came from about a year ago. I was thinking, man, it'd be cool to be president. How do I do that? I have no idea. And I got, I'm overwhelmed. But then what I did is, a day later, I said, well, what would it be like if I was? And I thought, oh my God, there's an army of team that would surround me and potentially take a bullet for me. My speaking fee would go through the roof. Anytime I wanted to speak anywhere I could, people would, I could do all kinds. I go, that would
you don't have to worry about being late to the airport anymore.
No. And you create this, once you create that, oh my God, how cool it would be if.
Yeah.
Then you go down to the next step. And what happens when people are overwhelmed is they don't see the next step. The next step is hope. It's huge. It's hope. And if you can show people that next step, and that's really what the lean-in factor with this, creating comfort with strangers is all about, is showing people how to get to the next step in their situation. And when I'm planning, it's a pilot program, so I'm just running it for the first time in the beginning of August. And I'm going to have people for a day. I'm going to work with them, smaller group, and work with them on some of the things that are blocking them from really feeling comfortable doing this. And I'm going to give them specific homework. And then from that 1-day workshop, then I'm going to meet with them one-on-one in a few days later, give them homework on things they need to do. And that,
is this a virtual thing or an in-person thing?
Virtual thing. Yep. And I'm only charging $497 for it instead of $1997, which is what I'm going to charge once I've got it down, because it's a pilot. It's the first. First
exactly.
And so it's gonna be great. I'm excited for it. And anybody out there, you want to have questions about that, want to get into it, just pop in anything in the chat right here. If you're not on, you see this recording later, and I'll get back to you on that. So
what's cool about being part of the pilot program, because I know there are some people, because I've done programs like that also, and been a part of programs like that. And they think, oh no, I'll wait until it's the finished, until it's all perfect. First of all, it's never perfect. Second of all, you're going to pay 3 times as much. But when you're part of the pilot program, you literally, I mean, part of what you're getting for that huge discount is that you get to co-create the program, because Ray, you bring your expertise, but you know how they say, what's the military phrase about plans? No plan withstands contact with the enemy. You're something like that. Like things change, and therefore the plan has to change. So you're coming into this one day workshop with a game plan, but you're going to hear from, and in this case, your customers, your clients are the enemy. Which at this point the analogy starts to fall apart.
That's the problem. Is that's how people look at it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, how do I make them my friend? That's the key. So
right.
you have to take the enemy and make them your friend. And,
right.
and that's exactly what people are facing, Bill. And that thought process, that's a beautiful, beautiful way to do it, because our minds go that way all the time. It's like, oh my God, I want to get.
That's right. This is a battle that I have to win. This is an adversary. My prospect is on the other, is the enemy.
Yeah.
You're right. That is kind of the mindset going in. I've got to win this battle. I've got to win this war.
Yeah.
It's me against her. It's in most cases, meeting planners still tend to be women. So it's me against her. If she doesn't hire me, then she wins, and that's unacceptable.
And the beauty of the pilot program, especially with me, and for those of you that don't know me out there, my mind, if you're really, really process oriented, step 1, step 2, step 3, ABC, you look at your closet, the clothes are lined up from left to right by color. The cans are lined alphabetically.
Right.
I'm not that guy. I'm the guy in the movie that goes squirrel, and off I go. And so I will take where we are in the moment, and I have a structure of where we're going. But when you ask your question, it might actually, line up. So it's kind of like coming in to a jazz festival, and the people, my clients in this room, they're not my enemy. They're like Miles Davis,
right.
they're John Coltrane, and
right.
when they come in, they get to contribute, and we're going to create something that is more spectacular than if I just recorded it and put it out there.
And it'll be more relevant to them, because if they're helping to co-create it, it's not just you, Ray. This is what I think they're going to want to hear. This is what I think they need. Yes, you have that going in, because you've got to have, again, the plan. You've got to have the game plan. I'm sure you have, like, I'll start this way and go this way and go this way. But then as soon as they start giving you feedback, it's like, oh, this is more important to them. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And then you can get back on it. I like to think when I'm doing programs, even when I'm doing a keynote, and I talk to other speakers about this, that basically my job is kind of to be the bus driver. Mm-hmm. Now, with a keynote, it's a little more structured. I mean, I can veer here and there, but the keynote is such a crystalline form. You've got 45 minutes, you got 60 minutes, that's it. But if it's a workshop, I know what the destination is. In other words, I know what I want them to get out of this. I know what I want the outcome to be. And I've got a roadmap.
Yeah.
Which we can follow. Now, that doesn't mean I can't take them on a detour. If somebody asks a question or a conversation starts to build, I can go to a detour. Now, I need to get back to the roadmap at some point, which is why I have to have that, because again, otherwise it just goes here and there and you don't get to the outcome. You end up, you're supposed to end up in Kansas City and instead you end up in Fort Lauderdale. Okay, that's not going to help anybody. But there are lots of ways to get to Kansas City.
There's a great example of that. I taught last summer, I taught a class at Sonoma State about presentation skills.
Yeah.
And I had mapped it out. I had everything there. And I got in the class and I looked at the people and I started talking to them. I told one story and I realized that what these kids needed was not what I was going to give them.
Right.
So let's go on the fly. And I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna be stuck with this thing. And I did a couple of improv things, and I did a couple of things about how to make people more interesting and how to meet people. And they started to get into it. I got up and I got them talking. We got them into that.
Yeah.
And I asked them what's the one thing that if you get out of this class that would make it worthwhile? And they gave me that, and I wrote them up on the board. I had 4 different classes, 8 days in a row, and I did that.
Wow.
And about the 3rd night in, I go, man, I'm done. I don't think I have anything more I can give them. And I was flipping through the channels, and Shark Tank came on. And I said, oh my God, I can do Shark Tank with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first iteration of what I did. And you actually went through it.
I did in was that in San Diego or was that in Miami?
It was in Miami. That was in Miami.
Yeah. Right.
And that was a bunch of entrepreneurs that had paid 5 figures each to get into this situation.
Right.
And what we did is we played Shark Tank with them an hour, and so they created their own company, their own product or service.
Right.
They had a phrase that pays, and they had a jingle.
And a jingle. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've never seen a group of entrepreneurs in a room have more fun than that.
No, and I mean, I was in that room, and it was all the buzz. I mean, that 1 hour that you had. In fact, if I looked at my notes, I could remember other things that happened, but that I don't have to even look at my notes for, because that sticks out, because it was a different experience, and it was an experience. It wasn't you up there lecturing for an hour. Now I'll listen to you talk for an hour. I mean, because you've got a lot of value. But this was hands-on. And look, you can't just let them loose and say, okay, let's do whatever you want. This is free playtime. Well, then that's a waste of my money. This was for a purpose, but it was for a purpose, and it was participatory. We got to roll up our sleeves and play in the clay and all that.
What was funny is that at the end, a room full of entrepreneurs, the thing that I pointed out to everybody, what I remember from that is, of all the people that went up there, nobody really charged enough for what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so they had this innovation they just created, and they did this thing, and nobody charged enough because they didn't value it, because they just
come up with it, and this is just play. This is a
baby. It's just play. Yeah. And I forget. I think it was Bill Doring pointed that out, and I'm going, oh my God.
John Doring, yeah.
John Doring. Sorry, Bill. Sorry, John. Sorry, Bill. Sorry to Bill Doring, who wasn't even
exactly. See, it's just conflation. That's
But that is so. And one of the things, like when the kids did it, I sat with each group that came up. So what we did is we broke the room up into teams. We come up, we do this Shark Tank, and they present it to the rest of the people. The rest of the people are now the sharks, and they get to ask questions. And so the kids, they had some questions they didn't know. And so I sat there and I said, didn't you in our meeting last week say boom, 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 boom? So I pushed, I pointed them in the right direction. I barely had to do that in Miami, because I have seasoned veterans doing that.
Yeah.
But that was an innovation thing. That was oh my God, I have to create a room full of friends that I did on the cuff, on the fly, that became something that I do for corporations now that creates a lot of money. I don't call it Shark Tank because there's a violation to that, probably.
Right.
Please sue me, Shark Tank, because then my name gets in the news, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And maybe they have me on the show as the guy that had the innovative sue Shark Tank idea that created be like water, get in somehow.
Yeah. But you're right. I think in a case like that, again, not so much in a keynote, although it does roll over into a keynote it rolls over into my keynotes from time to time, depending on how much time I have.
Yeah.
But when you're with a group of entrepreneurs or a group of CEOs or a group of whoever the audience is, 9 times out of 10, that room is smarter than I am, is smarter than you are. Especially if it's about, if it's a business group, they know more about their business than I do. I'm being brought in as an outsider to talk about innovation, how to think differently about their business. I'm not being brought in because I'm an expert in widgets or in plumbing supplies, or they've got that expertise. What I can do is guide them with questions and facilitation and activities, and then their wisdom, basically and you as well, I provide the context in which their brilliance and genius can thrive. The genius that they might not even be aware that they have, but by asking certain things and by getting certain things going, all of a sudden their genius comes up. And here's the thing: I actually learned this from Johnny Carson, which I wish Jimmy Fallon would learn, but he hasn't yet. That Carson, and clearly I'm dating myself here, but Carson was perfectly happy letting the guest have the spotlight, letting the guest get the big laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Fallon, a guest gets a big laugh, and you can almost see Fallon trying to think, okay, how can I top this? Not out of ego, but just they're like, no, because Carson realized for that 60 minutes that the show's on, he gets credit for every laugh. It's his show. His name's up there. Doesn't matter who gets the laugh. He gets credit for it. So when you and I do a workshop and all the brilliant ideas come from them, we still get the credit because it happened because of our workshop. We brought the people together. I've got friends, as do you, who make a substantial living with mastermind groups.
Yeah.
I mean, David's one, and others are. We know lots of people who do that. And with the mastermind group, basically all you and I are doing, if we have a mastermind group, is we're populating the room. We're getting the right people in the seats and then lighting the spark for them to go off.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where nobody's joining the mastermind group because it's Bill Staten's mastermind group. It's Ray Engin's mastermind group. They're joining, the first question people ask when I've done mastermind groups is who else is in there?
Yeah.
Because that's what they care about. Who else is going to be in that room? Not, what are you going to lecture us about this month? Who else is in that room? Who are you bringing together? And then give them something interesting that can spark a really cool conversation. I know we've gotten way off the topic of sales, but
well, and one of the things that I think, so when we try and plan too much in a keynote, in a phone call, in anything, mastermind group, what I've learned over the years, because when I was 16 years old and I was dating Betsy Bozell.
You dated Betsy Bozell too?
Yeah, do you know her?
Know her? No.
But I would sit there for hours thinking up how the conversation was going to go.
Right.
And then I'd call her and she'd ruin my plans.
Right. Completely ruined it. Yeah.
And I know, like with a keynote or a workshop, you can go in with this plan.
Right.
But I look at all these things in life like a plane flight. And as long as we take off and we land, well,
and we land where we're supposed to land, ideally.
We land where we're supposed to land, and with the wheels doing the landing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Then people forgive you for what's in the middle, or they love you for what's in the middle.
Right.
And they get to create part of that experience. I used to be a horrible flyer, but I knew that if I flew into Las Vegas and I could get the whole plane to sing Viva Las Vegas, that I won money. And so I developed a way to introduce that to everybody. And I said, you don't have to sing, but what I found is when you don't sing, people lose.
You don't win money. Yeah, you lose money.
And I successfully have gotten several plane loads of people to sing Viva Las Vegas.
Wow.
And it's about, and I did that through the whole process of creating comfort. But it's what is it that makes it comfortable to start talking to people? It's the ability to go, this person's interesting.
Yeah.
And there's something about this. And that phrase, acceptably unusual, is really part of that. And so if you come with confidence and you do something they're not used to seeing, but it's not so off the whack. Like one of my favorite things was Brandon Moskwa, who was working with people that weren't responding to him. And he had, one of them was a client that sold soap. And he's an e-commerce genius, right? And he's having trouble getting through to people. And I said, "We have kids, right?" "Yeah." "Well, send them a postcard with your kids drawing soap bubbles."
Oh, wow.
Send it to him. And he sent it off. He sent like 10 of these things to different people. And 9 of them responded and got in touch with him. The soap guy didn't. And he goes, how can I get the soap guy? I go, that's easy. So this is being like water, getting in somehow, right?
Yeah.
So I go, what you do is video your kids saying, Daddy, why won't he respond to our postcard? And then if he doesn't respond, you don't want to work with him anyway. He's not human.
Right.
So how do you create, and it's like being the usual unicorn. How do you create a difference without being so off that you can't get in?
Yeah.
And that's the secret with some of the things that we'll talk about in the lean in factor. There are things that I have used and didn't know they were actually techniques.
Right.
And then you discover later that they are. And this is from different sources.
And they're teachable and learnable.
They're teachable and learnable. That's the beautiful thing about every people skill, every business skill can be learned.
Right.
You can turn, if you are the shyest person in the world, hello, I used to wear a bucket on my head, used to walk in my mom's wraparound dress when I was a little kid.
That's a different issue.
Well, I in kindergarten, what made me really shy, my mom would wear those things. The first open house in kindergarten, my teacher, Mrs. Carrillo, wore the same wraparound skirt my mom had on.
Wow.
So when push came to shove and I got nervous, I walked in the wrong skirt. I'll never forget the sound Mrs. Carrillo made. Like, woo!
Yeah, I'll bet.
But everyone in that...
Right, weird because you were 18 years old at the time, too. That's
I was a few years behind.
Yeah, it happens.
I was catching up slowly.
Right.
But they all laughed at me, so I shut down. And I spent 4 years, like my third grade year, I wore a bucket on my head so you couldn't talk to me. Wow. It was my teacher in my fifth grade year that kind of brought me out and helped me. I'm still an introvert, but
yeah, me too.
I turn on when people are around.
Right.
I don't seek it out. I do when I'm there. I turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. Yeah. And the thing is, when I did stand-up comedy, but when I started doing stand-up comedy, you're annoying as a stand-up comic. You have to tell everybody your jokes.
Yeah.
And then after a while, you got money for it. You got paid for it. It's like, okay, you can go. My girlfriend at the time brought me to parties and she'd sit there and like, oh, her boyfriend, the comedian's here.
Oh.
And it's like, I'm not working.
Yeah.
And so it was cool. And then every once in a while, somebody would poke the bear. It's like, okay, I'll play, and then back to the couch,
Right.
And so it's kind of interesting. Once you understand that you can turn it on and off, then it doesn't become an obsession. It becomes a tool for gaining insight. And humor is one of the things that breaks down people's resistance. And if you can use it effectively, you don't even have to be funny to use humor.
Right.
That's the beauty of it. It's an amazing thing. You can do it with an emoji. You can do it with a cartoon. One of the things about the familiarity of friendship is when I send a friend an email, I don't have every logo, every this, every that on it. And because when I see that, I don't read all the stuff that's in there.
Right.
It's like we have a mutual friend that sends me emails, and I get to the end, and I'm like, "What if I want to come on?"
Right.
If you have a little bit of knowledge, somebody now. So if you're first going into somebody, first logo away, put your links, all this kind of stuff,
credibility building
off. You're putting things out, you're getting out there. It's just basic outreach. But once you establish a little bit of familiarity, take that stuff off, and they'll read every email.
Yeah.
The other thing that we'll talk about in that
is then it looks like an email that a friend would send to a friend.
Exactly.
You don't have the fancy wise stamp signature line in when you're emailing to a friend.
The subject line is a whole other subject, and
that's another one of those creating curiosity.
Yes.
Was that the first C in Chic, curiosity? Or
no, but that is actually, so the three things in an email that you're really creating are curiosity, relevance, and specificity.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, then they open things. You have to remember that on average, when people really like you, they read 26 seconds of your email. That's when they really like you.
Wow.
So when you send this super long email, you're running the risk of not having it read.
Yeah.
There are reasons to use longer emails and stuff, but for the most part, if you're trying to connect with someone, do not send them that. Another part of what we'll do is going over how to create a simple email that gets opened and usually read.
This is a part of your Lean In program?
Yeah. I haven't decided if that's in the initial part or if that's in the follow-up thing. But I'm sure we'll touch on it because it's such an important part of how we're doing. People are over inundated with emails. How do you stand out? Well, you have to, again, that phrase, being like water, drips of water break down stone.
Yeah.
And we'll send one thing and go, oh, I don't want to bother them. Well, you're not bothering them, you're serving them.
Yeah.
There are things that you know in your head that if you give to a company or an executive and put them in their head, make the world a better place. And if you don't give them a way to contact you and give them a way to get that information, you're actually hurting the planet.
Yeah.
You're being selfish.
Yeah.
Stop that. Stop that. You have to be able, and you know this, and a form of it is the Connie Podesta hypothetical,
Right.
but it's really seeding what you do.
Yeah.
Because when you speak, because when I speak, it's great, but I'm usually trying to, in a business, I'm trying to bring them into my world so we can do more things together and make a deeper dive. Because I want not just to give them information, I want them to integrate it so we create transformation.
Yeah.
And those are kind of the 3 steps of what I want to take people through. But when you speak in a lot of things, they say, oh, wow, that's our speaker. Right. They don't know you can do anything else.
They don't, which is why you're right. You do have to seed those things. And the Connie Podesta hypothetical, you know what it is. I know what it is. But for those who are watching this in the replay, it's from a friend of mine, Connie Podesta, another Hall of Fame speaker. And she does this so well. So I speak about innovation. And if I'm doing a keynote speech about innovation, they don't think of me as an innovation expert. They do, but they think of me as a keynote speaker who speaks on innovation. They don't know that I can do all these other, that I can, go a lot deeper than a 1-hour keynote. So I need to say something like, for example, here's blah, 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 blah. For example, if you were to bring me in to do a half-day innovation sprint with your sales team, here's the one thing that I would tell them. Here's the most important thing that I would tell them. I would tell them that the difference between people who make a sale and people who come in second is that the people who make the sale get the prospect to think differently about a situation, which is what I do. But something like that. But again, the thing is, if you were to bring me in to do a workshop with your sales team, here's what I tell them. And then you make the point, but what you're really doing is like,
you could do that. Yeah.
Maybe we should. If I were doing this is a wonderful regional thing. If I were doing the keynote for your entire team, or if I were speaking to your other divisions, here's what I'd say.
When I speak at the sales kickoff meetings, these are the things that I point out to salespeople. When I met with the leaders of Mechatronics, I took them through in 15 minutes and showed them which one of these 3 pillars, being an entrepreneur, is missing with their organization.
Yeah. Another great way to do this, say, so I was a couple months ago, I was leading a half-day innovation workshop where I was facilitating something. And one of the CEOs said something I thought was really interesting. I want to share with you what she said.
Yep.
And then you make the point you were going to make anyway, but now you have framed it around, oh, you do this kind of thing. Like, you're not just the keynoter. You don't, you actually have more than an hour's worth of, of value.
And like, tomorrow I'll tell people when I was in this conversation with Hall of Fame speaker Bill Stainton, the winner of 21 Emmys. And the other thing that I've used before is, like, the last time I was on the phone with Dr. Cialdini, he was asked, what's the difference between influence and manipulation? Well, influence is something where I'm trying to make your life better. Manipulation would be where I'm trying to tell you something that makes my life better to get you to do something. the same skill set.
Exactly.
And now they go, oh, you know, Dr. Cialdini, you know?
Right. Well, I've used, so when we were in, when our group was in, our elite group was in San Diego, we brought in, actually, I brought in, I'll take credit for that, Brian Tracy.
Yeah.
You know, who Eat That Frog and, you know, like sales guru, you know, all goals guru, Brian Tracy. And I've used that multiple times saying, you know, I was talking with Brian Tracy last year and he said, which is true, all that. And here's what he said, because he said so many amazing golden things. But, you know, hey, there was a small group of us who were, you know, had an audience with Brian Tracy. And okay, all right, wow, okay, this you're playing with the big guys. Robert Cialdini, another example. I was talking to somebody just recently because something came up. I said, "Oh yeah, I remember talking to Dave Grohl about that because Dave and I we worked with the Foo Fighters and drummer for Nirvana. Well, I knew him, you know, actually pretty well when he was the drummer for Nirvana. And yeah, it's name dropping, but and at some point it's just okay, you're just name dropping. But if you can name drop a business name for business people,
it's a soft mention that what?
It's a soft mention, and all of a sudden you get a little bit of their reflected glow. It's like, like there's proximity there. Oh, okay, yeah.
And also, it is a way to. I had a friend that was an extra on Seinfeld 3 times.
Oh, nice.
So she would be introduced to an audience as a regular on Seinfeld,
right?
And so there are what. So that San Diego event. Brian Tracy, this thing, you know, I was at an event, I got to speak at an event. Brian Tracy was there, all these Hall of Fame speakers were there, and there was one person that got a standing ovation.
Oh, wow.
That was me.
I'm pretty sure Brian Tracy got one.
I don't know. Oh, yeah, he did. I'm sorry.
I think because it would have been rude not to. I mean, the guy.
I know, because he was standing.
But you could say there was one person that got a standing ovation. You didn't say there was only one, but still,
that's true. But it's like, so I was at an event and with and blah 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 blah, boom.
That's that's good. I was speaking at an event that, you know, Brian Tracy also spoke at. There were several Hall of Fame speakers. Were there several, or was there just one? I think there might have just been.
Karen was there. You were there.
Who was the first one?
Oh, Karen.
Oh, that's right. Karen was there. That's right. That's right.
I always think that David is one.
No, he's not. He's a CSP, not a Hall of Fame speaker.
Yeah, and then I you know, I give credit. I give like Jen Cronenberger. I just assume that she is, but I don't think she is. But
no, I don't even think she's an NFC.
There were some heavy hitters there.
There were some heavy hitters. And look, Hall of Fame speaker is great, and the Emmys are great. Jen Cronenberger is making more money than I've made.
It doesn't matter your title; it matters your ability to create work for yourself.
Yeah.
And the title helps. A title gives you credibility, but so does action and being able to create connections.
Well, one thing that really gives you credibility is what results have you caused in others. I know we're getting towards the top of the hour, but I wanted to mention one more thing that because this does relate directly back to what you initially started talking about. I've got a friend, fellow Hall of Fame speaker, a guy named Brian Walter, who has spoken to some NSA chapters on, elevator pitches. We all hear about elevator pitches. Other people call it your defining statement. I forget what David calls it. And it's always some version of I work with blah, 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 who blah, 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 so that blah, 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 without blah, 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 or whatever, some version of that. So my friend Brian had a different thing. He called it how, wow, now. Or, I'm sorry, wow, how now. Which is, again, what he's saying is not too different from other people, but he's branded it. Oh, Brian's the wow, how now guy. So what he talks about is that you start with something that causes them to have a Scooby-Doo moment.
Yep.
So like, I remember I was at a networking thing once, but these two entrepreneurs, they had a business together, stood up, it was their turn, and they just said, we make millionaires. And that's all they said. And everybody's like, how do you do that? Tell me more. And that tell me more, or how do you do that? That's the invitation for you to keep speaking. You're not forcing your spiel on them. You say something that's interesting, and that they go, how do you do that? Tell me more. Okay, now they have invited. You're not intruding. They
Exactly.
invited you to keep speaking. Well, you know how when blah 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 blah. Well, this is that. Oh, okay. And I can't remember what the rest of the how now is, but the whole thing is making it so that they continually keep inviting you to say more.
And that's the exact thing that the lean in factor does. It creates the really tell me
Right.
more. That's the key. That's how you get people interested in you. That's how you get businesses interested in you. That's how you get the world interested in you. Is you become interesting because you're interested in them.
Right.
And what questions are you asking? Not really what questions. What statements are you making to bring it in? It always cracks me up. People will come in and ask some crazy question, and if you said nice shoes. When you say nice shoes, I know exactly what answer I'm going to get. They're going
Right.
to tell me either who made them or where they purchased them and how much they cost. Jimmy
Right.
Choo or these Walmart, $6.
Right.
Temu, 350. Right?
Mhm.
They're fantastic with it. Hey, Bill, this has been a great hour. I got to
Right.
wrap it up and go. Anybody has any questions about that? I'm going to put more about the lean in factor coming up. It's in the beginning of August, pilot program. Put questions in if you haven't been in here today. You see it later. I will answer those for you. And if you need to get Bill Staten, billstaten.com, right?
That's it. BillStaten.com.
That's it. The innovation guy. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much. And we are out.
Cool. Take care.
All right, man.